After losing all his family, this boy just wanted to be a regular student. Still, he ended up in a military school where they made him a demon by doing experiments on him. Later on, he found out that he was immortal. In this world, your power is determined by the number in your body. The higher the number, the stronger you are, and if your number hits 0, you die. Licht is an ugly, disgusting, pathetic gooner with a habit of doing the most redditor of all things. One day, he got himself into trouble by peeking at girls' underwear. Obviously, the girl didn't like it and ended up beating up him, whipping off billions of his future descendants. Now, Licht finds himself in an auditorium along with this guy, whose fit goes really hard. For the opening ceremony at Special Military School, the captain tells them to follow orders no matter what. Second Lieutenant Fyrnda, who is also an instructor, steps in to take over. She explains the world they live in is controlled by Allthing, a mysterious god-like entity who looks he was made in Adobe After Effects that appeared during a time of crisis. It's made of super advanced technology and has the power to make decisions for everyone by forcing them to follow the majority vote. So, basically, this god is Joseph Stalin's cousin or something. People thought it was a miracle and started making big decisions like banning F-22 jets, MLRS trucks, war, and nuclear weapons. But things didn't go as planned and their nation is in big trouble. The previous war messed up everything, destroying cities and messing up the environment. There isn't enough food, and people all over the world started senior citizen gangs. The captain interrupts her because he thinks she's scaring everyone too much. Instead, he tells them to do their best to become good soldiers and promises them rewards like money and food, which if you paid attention earlier, they don't have. This makes everyone feel better, and they start smiling again. He reminds them to pay attention to the headmaster, and then introduces Major Schmerman, the headmaster, who doesn't look German at all. Schmerman steps onto the stage, and everyone salutes him. But instead of giving a serious speech, he starts reading a fairy tale. This surprises everyone, and a girl and 2 guys from the crowd start laughing at him. Schmerman tells them to be quiet, but they keep laughing even louder. Suddenly, the captain walks up to them and greets the girl with a 9mm to the head. He says Schmerman told them to be quiet, or they'll be as quiet as the girl who was laughing just now. He tells everyone that a good soldier obeys commands before sending these 2 bozos to hell. Panic spreads through the crowd as people try to run to the door, but it's locked. They scream for help, but the captain fires his gun in the air, silencing them. He warns that anyone who tries to run will be treated like a regular Russian soldier in 1942. Just as he's about to shoot them, Licht locks the F in, holding a random twig to Schmerman's neck. The captain thinks Licht is joking, but Licht insists he's serious, pressing the stick as if it's a Swiss knife or something. Schmerman tells Licht to be serious and explains how to snap his neck properly. He even demonstrates with Licht's hands, showing how to do it. He says that even someone as weak as an average woman can kill with this technique if done right. Licht asks if Schmerman is serious about him snapping his neck. Schmerman replies that the best way to win the war is if he's no longer alive and promises no one else will be harmed if Licht succeeds. But if he hesitates, these random bozos will most likely die. I mean, look at their faces. They ain't built for this. The headmaster asks Licht to make his choice. Licht tightens his grip on the stick, causing Schmerman to smile, but then Licht pulls away, refusing to go through with it. The headmaster questions if Licht really doesn't want to kill him, warning that unless Licht does, everyone will die. But instead, Licht steps forward, insisting that the headmaster should kill him instead, yapping about morality and some nonsense he'll probably turn his back to anyways. Schmerman stands up and agrees to do as Licht wishes, emitting a dark aura that frightens the audience. However, Licht remains unafraid and stares directly into Schmerman's eyes, surprising him that Licht isn't scared of him. Fyrnda steps in to calm the situation, suggesting they take a break. Suddenly, the kids who were shot get up and realize they're still alive, as they were only hit by paint bullets. The captain returns his gun and introduces himself as Captain Allen, one of their instructors. He emphasizes the importance of obeying orders in battle to survive, as those who panic or break down in tears, or were just laughing, dies first. Fyrnda cheerfully announces the end of the opening ceremony and dismisses everyone. Schmerman talks with Captain Allen in his office, expressing interest in Licht, but Allen finds the samurai boy, Takakazi, more intriguing. Schmerman explains Licht took action when Allen pulled his gun, but Takakazi acted after Allen fired his first shot. Allen asks if that makes Licht the leader, but Schmerman says not yet. Schmerman acknowledges Licht's potential and suggests making him a candidate to see how far he can go. The first class at the school begins with Headmaster Schmerman taking the lead. He starts by introducing the school's rules, including something called the star system, ripping it off from Spy Family's Stella stars. Each student is given 2 stars, and if they collect 10 stars, they officially join the military. Their families then receive gold bars, fresh food, boxes marked as food, and some gold coins from the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion. However, if a student's star count drops to 0, they're considered unfit and expelled, immediately sent to a nearby gulag. When asked how they can earn more stars, Schmerman explains that those who do well in different activities will receive stars. But if they want to earn stars quickly, they'll have to take them from each other, using any means necessary. So basically, it's like Battle Royale plus Spy Family. However, there are rules for using violence to take stars. Both parties must agree to bet their stars, and the winner only gets the number of stars that were wagered, which is called a star stake. As everyone is awarded their stars, it comes to Licht's turn, but Schmerman surprises him by saying there are no stars for him. Licht is confused, and Schmerman explains that Licht is in a special course where he must take stars from another student within 3 days if he wants to stay enrolled. At the end of class, Licht's friends are worried about him, but he reassures them that he doesn't mind stealing stars. He's only there to get Takakazi out of the school. Takakazi reveals that his grandmother sent Licht, and Licht agrees, saying he can't refuse her wish since she took him in. He suggests they go home together, but Takakazi refuses, stating that he won't become a killer like Licht and his grandmother fears, and Licht will never understand why he wants to be a soldier. Meanwhile, Alan asks Schmerman why he put Licht in a special course, and Schmerman explains that he wanted to test how Licht would handle the situation and see if he could meet their expectations. On the 3rd day, Licht still hasn't earned any stars, causing worry among his classmates. Suddenly, one of them bursts in with alarming news. They all rush to the locker room to find their lockers destroyed and their stars missing, which they had kept safe to prevent theft. Ikanos quickly blames Licht because he's a massive gooner and he might be a thief too. But some students insist he wouldn't steal their stars. They wonder who could be responsible and hear a scream outside. Takakazi rushes out and discovers Sonohara being dragged by her hair by a guy named Don. She pleads with him to return her stars, and when everyone gathers, they see that Don has 10 stars. Takakazi asks if he took Sonohara's stars by force, and Don releases her hair, asking if she willingly gave them to him while looking absolutely ridiculous with this shaft monogatari pose. Fearing for her safety, Sonohara admits that she did. The group begins to accuse Don, claiming he has the power to break into lockers and steal stars. However, Don challenges them, asking if they have any proof or if they wrote their names on their stars, which leaves the group speechless because he makes a good point, despite looking like a damn criminal. Takakazi tells Don that he's collected enough, but Don insists on taking his stars too and demands that Takakazi hands them over. One of the girls accuses Don of being greedy, but Takakazi asks why he should comply. Don reveals, while looking like a botched Bethesda character, that it's the price for his grandma's safety, and fearing for her, Takakazi reluctantly hands over his stars. The girls inquire why Takakazi did that, and he explains that his grandmother borrows her dojo from Don's parents, and she'd have nowhere to go if they kicked her out. After taking the stars, Don walks away. The whole class decides to share their stars like she's a beggar or something. A girl offers Licht one of her stars, but he declines, suggesting she give it to someone who really needs it. He doesn't understand why everyone is so eager to become soldiers. Takakazi also rejects to get a star and decides to find a way to get one. By 5, Takakazi still hasn't earned a star, which frustrates him deeply. Licht tries to console him, saying it's alright because he never wanted Takakazi to become a soldier. However, Takakazi reveals that his grandma is already suffering, losing weight and sacrificing her own food ration to feed them. Despite his efforts to persuade her to eat, she refuses, leaving Takakazi determined to become a soldier to provide for them, so he can use his Glock 19 at his grandma if she refuses to eat. At 6, students who had gathered 10 stars were instructed to assemble by the main gate. Don heads there, believing he's the only one, but Licht blocks his path, pleading for him to return Takakazi's stars. Don reacts violently, striking Licht and sending him crashing into the wall and proceeds towards the gate. Don reaches the gate, but Schmerman insists on counting his stars before he can leave. Don proudly declares he has 12 stars, but when asked to show them, they turn to dust and transform into frogs, which absolutely flabbergasted him. Licht returns to the group with the real stars in his mouth, revealing that he swapped them. Don realizes this and becomes furious, while the rest of the class rejoices that Doan's plan failed. Schmerman instructs Doan to return to his class as he won't be graduating. Everyone gets their stars back, and Licht now has 2, just from a quick trick called asset reallocation. He tells Takakazi he's decided to stay with him at the school, but doesn't want him to graduate. Confused, Takakazi learns Licht's plan. While they're at the school, their families will receive extra food rations, allowing them to sustain themselves while they reconsider their soldier aspirations. Some days later, Licht and his classmates are camping out in the woods. Licht peeks at the girls and is surprised they let him because once they become soldiers, they won't have as much freedom. Ikanos tries to show Licht her double-barrel shotgun, but he doesn't look. Licht covers her with his jacket and walks past her, confusing everyone. Licht asks if they really want to become soldiers even though they'll have to kill people. Ikanos says if she could choose not to kill, she would, but they don't have that choice. Schmerman joins them and tells them they should aim to be an army that doesn't kill on the battlefield, like a medic or recon. Licht wonders if it's possible, and the headmaster says it is if they're stronger than their enemies. He promises to help them become that. Ikanos cries, and the rest of the class is happy they can be an army that doesn't kill. Later, Schmerman heads to a secret lab behind his library. There, Fyrnda explains they can't copy the voting ability, but they found new powers from Althing. Schmerman asks Alan about the war. Alan says it's unavoidable, and all nations are getting ready for it. David adds that Althing should have banned wars forever instead of just banning nukes. Schmerman asks David if he knows where those who know about Althing are. David says he's found them all and asks if Schmerman wants him to take them out when the time comes. Schmerman agrees. David reminds him that he's risking his life and Schmerman should keep his promise. Alan assures David that his genetic information is safe and they'll revive him once they develop cloning technology. Schmerman asks Fyrnda for an update on the ACES project. She says the lab rat experiment was successful, but there's a problem: violent tendencies. One rat killed the others with its teeth. Schmerman asks why, and Fyrnda says it's unknown, suggesting the rat's brain might be too small to control it. She proposes moving to human subjects, but Schmerman forbids it, especially using children like before. He asks her to bring him a ballot. She gives it to him, and he wonders what would happen if they gave it to the surviving rat. Despite objections, he does it anyway. The rat rests on the ball, and its eyes glow as it starts doing some DBZ super type sheet. It almost hits Schmerman, but he freezes it and retrieves the ballot. He tells Fyrnda that the children want to be an army that doesn't kill, so she should finish the research because the children will need it. The class finishes their morning training, totally wiped out. Captain Allen scolds them for being easily exhausted. Schmerman steps in, saying it's good they're pushing themselves. Since they want to be an army that doesn't kill, he'll start their training. He'll give them weapons that suit each of them and train them with those. He hands out medieval weapons, like swords and axes. Lin Girl asks why they're not using AR-15s. Schmerman explains that while modern weapons will kick off the war, it'll eventually turn into close combat. If they're stronger in hand-to-hand fights, they can win. Schmerman then goes back to the lab to see Fyrnda, expressing his wishes they didn't have to go to war. Unlike previous wars for resources, this one aims to control overpopulation, which Schmerman sees as a way to get rid of wasteful humans. He insists they must protect the children from such a war. Fyrnda mentions Project ACE and suggests moving to human trials, but Schmerman freezes the room as a warning. He won't let her experiment on his kids. Fyrnda agrees, but her expression hints she might have other plans, which is alright because she's hot. Terrible news strikes as they receive word that David has been killed. Schmerman informs Alan that the most distressing part is David's final message, which seems cryptic. Playing the transmission for Alan, they hear David mention that they've all been deceived. The group is bewildered by what David meant by being tricked. Fyrnda suggests it could mean their plan details were leaked, so she recommends shifting focus to Project ACE. This infuriates Schmerman, who accuses her of wanting to use the children for experiments that could harm them. He surrounds Fyrnda in ice, but she remains unfazed, revealing that Schmerman's genes are the reason behind the violent tendencies observed in the rats. This angers Schmerman, and Fyrnda insists they must move on to human trials or halt the project. DNA testing reveals one candidate with a high chance of success, and I'll let you guys wonder who that candidate is. In Schmerman's office, he embraces Licht, explaining the situation to him. Licht is okay with it, as long as it ensures everyone's safety and allows them to become a non-killing army. The members of class are worried about Licht undergoing the surgery. They ask why Licht is the only one taking such a risk. Takakazi tells Firenda that they can't stand being a fodder character in yet another generic anime about with a black-haired teenager as a protagonist. However, Firenda explains that the surgery is for their protection, and since they're not professional soldiers yet, they need someone with special skills, and Licht is the perfect match for absolutely no reason. The class feels sad hearing this, but Licht smiles and says he's willing to take the chance to protect everyone, even though he's the most punchable of them all. In the operation room, Licht and Schmerman are placed on beds. Schmerman's blood is transfused into Licht as the operation begins. Takakazi and the others anxiously wait, hoping for a successful outcome. Meanwhile, the students are playing outside when they spot helicopters playing Fortunate Son. Alan notices them and initially thinks they're joint force helicopters, but it's too early for an attack. However, he remembers David's words about being tricked, and he rushes to inspect the choppers. Realizing the danger, Alan urgently tells everyone to evacuate, but before they can escape, one of the helicopters fires a missile at the school, destroying it and killing some students. Soldiers then enter the school, searching for the main body. Some of the girls survive the impact, but the enemy's sergeant orders his men, remember, no students, and everyone pulls a Makarov airport maneuver. While the chaos unfolds, the operation continues smoothly. Alan prepares his gun to confront the soldiers. Sonohara, despite holding a gun, almost gets shot, but Doan saves her by knocking out the soldier. Sonohara is so scared that she calls out for Licht to save her. Seeing she's frozen in fear, Doan picks her up and takes the gun, shooting at the approaching soldiers holding Sonohara's stress balls. Just as the soldiers are about to finish off Ikenos and the other girls, a chalk bag is thrown, creating a smoke screen. Jail and Takakazi use this opportunity to jump the soldiers and save the girls. The survivors hide in a classroom, confused about why the war has started when Althing said no war until next March. Alan couldn't give them an answer. Suddenly, he receives a communication from Firenda, who informs him that there was a revote. She explains that there are 7 ballots that can cast a vote in Althing, while other countries of the world hold a total of 4, more than half. In other words, the rest of the world tricked them and changed the ban to September without their knowledge. While Firenda is excited about this revelation, Alan questions if she's enjoying it, but she denies it. She informs them that there's a problem. The power supply has been cut, and if it's not restored, Licht will die because the genetic injections cannot be stopped manually. Licht is way over capacity, and soon his body will reject the procedure, leading to cardiac arrest. Someone needs to start the backup power of the school to save Licht. Alan learns that the soldiers have taken control of the school, so they need to stop them while also restoring the power. Knowing the danger, Alan asks for volunteers, meaning these bozos will die. The entire class agrees to go in order to save Licht. They all charge forward bravely instead of doing some Metal Gear Solid. Alan takes down a soldier with his gun, while Takakazi finishes off this stormtrooper bum. They make their way outside, but more soldiers start firing at them like their Call of Fortnite. Alan swiftly shoots them down, then declares that he's going ahead. They reach the power site, and Alan takes down 2 soldiers so they can advance. Suddenly, a guy with RPG has had enough and fired at the building, injuring Alan, but he expresses his happiness that he didn't have to watch the children die. The enemy's sergeant confronts Hina and Ikenos, threatening to harm them if they don't reveal the location of the main body. Despite the threat, Hina remains silent, standing her ground. The sergeant prepares to shoot her since she won't talk, while deep down she hopes Licht will come to their rescue. Light balls begin to rise from the school ground. Meanwhile, Licht is on the brink of death as the heart monitor reads 0. However, power is restored. The monitor starts to beep again. Licht wakes up, noticing his white hair, and hears Schmerman asking how he's feeling. He requests Firenda to bring an item, but she advises him to rest as the operation has put a lot of strain on him. However, Schmerman insists on giving Licht the item himself, urging Firenda to hurry as the children are in danger. She presses some buttons, revealing a sword. Schmerman explains that it functions as a ballot and amplifies Licht's power, but it won't work until Licht engraves it with his count, an oath he will be bound to. The process is simple. Licht must think of an oath, say, authenticate count. This will declare the thing to keep count of, like a streak kill counter, and the sword will recognize him as its master. Outside the school, there's a rumble, but it suddenly stops. The soldiers wonder what's happening when a red flash passes behind them. Crashing into a wall, it's Licht. The sergeant orders the soldiers to kill Licht, but their bullets stop as they reach him. Remembering Schmerman's words about receiving absolute strength, Licht realizes he's both Neo and the Silver Surfer combined. Everything around him freezes, and Schmerman advised him to walk slowly until he gets used to it. Licht flicks away bullets effortlessly, then notices his friend's state, angering him. He begins attacking the enemy choppers, who are still spinning for some reason. The soldiers run out of bullets, and the sergeant, frustrated, asks why Licht won't kill them. Pulling out his dagger, he faces Licht, who counters, stating they are the punch and kick merchant army. Licht overpowers the sergeant, knocking him out with the hilt of his sword, securing victory. Licht resolves to eradicate war and killing. He knows it won't be easy, but together they'll overcome hardships. Ikenos takes the lead as girls are suddenly in love with Licht's mad riz, including the boys, too. They're all laughing together when the sergeant and his men appear, laughing at their ideals. They reveal their bodies strapped with explosives, intending to blow them all up. But before the sergeant can press the detonator, Licht zooms past him, snatching it away and smashing it. Insists the world is cruel, and survival means either they die or Licht and his friends die. He starts the countdown, saying killing is how they protect their families. Licht begs him to stop, but the sergeant argues that such a death is honorable and beneficial for their families. With the countdown reaching 5, Licht recalls their promise not to be an army that kills. Almost reaching 1, Takakaze yells at Licht to stand down as he charges towards the sergeant, ready to end them. But Licht swiftly knocks the sword from Takakaze's hands and beheads the sergeant and his men with a single swing, shocking his friends with his ult. Before dying, the sergeant admits he played Licht like a fiddle, because the nuke is also a lie, but commends Licht for his bravery, advising him to do his best to survive the war. His friends are worried about him, but he acts like his usual silly self, saying it's gross he got blood all over him and runs out to wash it off. Licht started throwing up, unable to believe he had killed people. He realized that Doan was right, the war wouldn't end unless they killed the enemy. He realizes he had broken their promise, but he eventually concluded that it's okay as long as he's the one doing the killing. The others are still fine. He makes his decision and authenticates his count, pledging to be the one to kill the enemies for everyone. Licht returns to the group, sad, but promises them they'll make sure to end the war quickly, which everyone agrees to. They celebrate their peace, but Licht decides then and there that he won't let them kill anyone, and their class will be an army that doesn't kill, except for him cause he loves killing now. He won't let them feel what he did when he killed for the first time. That day, war broke out around the world, a war intended to decrease the global population until it matched its food output. Licht went off to war and returned safely, but his classmates noticed his changed mood. He had killed 337 people that day, unlocking the Predator missile ability multiple times. As he washed off in the shower, he was still disgusted by what he had become. But then a young girl named Nana approached him, asking if he was okay. He stared at her, but then smiled. Licht became the second ace born after many years, playing with the girl and caring for her like an older brother. However, he began to change more and more every day due to overexposure to Schmerman's genes. He started to develop unhealable scars all over his body and mind, with Schmerman's killer impulses taking more and more control as he killed. By the time he had killed 10,000 people, he had lost the ability to goon. Even when the girls tried to cheer him up, he had lost his riz, simply ordering them not to kill anyone and walking away. The girls realized that Licht wasn't himself anymore, which made them sad. Ikenos insisted that they wouldn't give up on bringing back their cheerful Licht. Fyrnda was able to get into his head, convincing him that if he didn't kill, others would have to start killing. Since then, he picked up a mask that he wore always and never took off in front of the others. The class marched to Schmerman's office, with Takakaze leading the way. He declares they can't let Licht do all the killing alone because they're a team and they'd like a kill streak ability too. Schmerman asks if they truly want to undergo the operations Licht is undergoing, which they all confirm, not wanting Licht to be distant anymore. Schmerman agrees, which Alan opposes. Schmerman suggests going ahead of schedule since the plan was to operate on all of them. 4 additional compatible subjects are found and made aces: Takakaze, Doan, Sonohara, and Captain Alan. They hope this will stop Licht from doing all the killing. However, when Takakaze and Sonohara try to follow Licht for his next mission, he orders them not to come, threatening Takakaze that he'll cut him down if he disobeys. They can't believe Licht has become so cold, unaware that Licht is hurting on the battlefield, but you can't take him seriously because of that silly mask he chose. Fyrnda tells Alan and Schmerman it's time to take the offensive and aim for the other ballots. She warns that they'll be wiped out if they keep being defensive. Alan opposes this, But Schmerman is ready to start the second plan named Alsha. Fyrnda explains they can gain unfathomable power by obtaining all 7 original ballots and achieving a unanimous vote. With this power, they can create their utopia, Alsha, before it's too late. Schmerman agrees, stating there's no hope for saving the world, but they can save the children. He acknowledges that Licht won't forgive him for this, but he's ready to take all the blame. Meanwhile, Licht starts going berserk, swinging his sword at his classmates and screaming to kill the enemies. Takakazi and Genji try to hold him back, but he's too strong, flinging them away. Sonohara tries to talk to him, but Takakazi tells her to stand back. Licht continues going berserk, eventually cutting off Sonohara's arm. Despite this, class members still follow his orders and stay out of battle, saddened by the realization that Licht's